Hello, hello, hello. Boiling hot again. Let's hope everyone can hear me. Some more great music from Ryan Davis. Awesome. Awesome. Something's beeping. What's beeping? Bear with me one sec.
Disconnected.
Okay. It's my own fault. It's my own fault. There we go. We're looking good. So, what were we doing last time? So, we're still trying to add Authy to our application, our Laravel application. We've been hitting into some snags. We've been overcoming those snags. We've been doing okay. We got a certain distance last time. So if we go back, that's the stuff I've been working on this morning. There we go. So this is our application here. This is where we got last time. So we got to the check 2FA controller point. I did some off-stream stuff for the first time ever. I wanted to check if I could stop using Laravel's global helpers, just because I'm not a massive fan of that kind of thing. Yeah, I find that I like to try and do things in one way rather than in multiple ways that you could do things. So what we've done, if you look at the add 2FA controller, what we've done here is instead of actually calling auth user, or calling the auth facade user, I'm passing in the auth factory in as a dependency. So we're actually getting the auth factory passed in as a dependency. So I'm not accessing it statically. I'm not accessing it globally. I'm getting it pulled in as a fulfilled dependency, and then we can pull the user out of the auth factory. So I think that's kind of a cleaner way to do it, because all the dependencies are then wired in via the Laravel's auto wiring. So that's all I've done off stream is just on this. But as we touch more and more code today, I'm going to try and pull that stuff in. The only problem that I had, and I'm definitely open to suggestions if people have suggestions for this, is I'm still using these global functions in the view, because I don't really know how I can change that. Like, I'm going to need access to the user in all of the Blade templates, right? In every view, I want access to the user. And I'm not quite sure if there's anything I can do to make that available as just a normal variable in the view, a view variable. I know, like, when I used to work a lot with Zen Framework 2, Zen Framework 1, there were ways that you could add, like, view helpers that can do that kind of thing, but I don't know enough about Laravel's architecture to know if there's something I can do there. So, at this point, I think I'm okay with calling these global functions in the view layer and not calling them in any of the other layers, in the controller layer or whatever. I think I'm okay with that, and we'll see. Once again, it's absolutely boiling hot here, so I've got the window open. I can already feel my legs heating up as my graphics card is encoding the stream. So yeah, it's gonna be a sticky one. You will hear noise of cars driving past. Maybe somebody decide to cut their lawn or something. Yesterday there were roadworks outside, so I couldn't even record a podcast. But yeah, we're okay. So let's go back. So the flow that we've done so far, let's have a recap. So we've changed the login template so that instead of posting to the login route, which is something that's created by Laravel when we do PHP artisan make off, we're actually hijacking the process and going back to do 2FA route. So if we look at our web.php, our do 2FA goes to our do 2FA controller, and it does. That's the name of the route. So we use the do 2FA controller invoke in order to hijack the login process to check if we need to do two-factor authentication. So what we do then is we've got this do 2FA request that does our validation for us. It checks that the email is required and is an email, and the password is required and is a string. So that's all the validation we're really doing. And then we pull a user out of the database where the email matches the email that somebody logged in. Now, if we don't get one because we're using first off fail, it'll give us a 404. I don't know if you can overwrite that. I'm imagining you can. Because 404 is not what we want here, right? We want to redirect back to the login page saying, oh, the username and password combo you've put in is incorrect. Because otherwise we're exposing credentials. We're exposing which email addresses are logged in to our users. But, you know, it's okay for this. This is just like an educational exercise. I'm okay with that compromise at this point. So then what we do is we say, if the Authy ID isn't set, this person doesn't have two-factor authentication enabled. So we can just log them in using the authenticated users trait login method. Just allows us to just like quickly log them in. Otherwise, we send the SMS to the user. Now, this is only commented out because we hit... there's a hard limit of the number of SMSs you can send to any given number using Authy per hour. And we hit that limit at the end of the stream last time. So that's why that's commented out. We can uncomment this. It wasn't required for us to actually send the SMS in order for us to continue with our testing. So I just commented it out. So then we say, can we send an SMS to the user, this Authy ID, using the Authy API, which is the Authy's PHP client library, which is all good. And then we wanted to check if the response is okay. Then we'll put the login data into the session because we need to return the view that actually asks them to type in the 2FA. So we've got 2fa.blade. 2fa.blade. So this just displays the box that says, can you type in the text message that we just sent you, please? Go now. It says Chia to be number 1. Okay. Hello, Okramius. This is... I don't like the fact that Macro's in this stream. He's going to really judge every single, like, bad thing I do just to get this added. This not looking good, but, you know, hey, I can cope with that. I can live with it. It's fine. Welcome, Macro. So then we ask them to type in the 2FA, and then if there's an error, I'm just throwing an exception. This isn't like the best thing to do. Obviously, we would want to handle this exception more gracefully in a real system, but for the sake of just figuring out how Authy works, at the end of the day, that's what the this is only about me understanding what Authy works because I want to start submitting talks on it, if I'm honest. So that's all we're doing here. So next we then actually have to respond to the get as well, so that we can show the only reason that we need to respond to the get is so that we can show the enter the 2FA SMS code at the same time with the error messages, because it'll go back with a get and stick some errors in the session. So we just check if we've stored the login data or not. This works. So let's take a look at how that actually works in Flow. If we go back to our browser, if we log in here, use an email and password, you can see this is the form I was talking about. So if we go back to my phone, which you should be able to see here, you can see that we've got a message sent to us saying, Authy Laravel Stream of Hope have sent me a security code, which is 1633176. So it's how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 7 digits. So that means my validation for that is completely wrong already, because it's 7 digits and I put it at 6, but hey. But if we type a token in here that's not 6 digits, you can see that it'll fail validation and come back to this page. That's why we needed the get. And then we can say 123 123 and it'll pass validation because I've got it set to 6, but actually it should be 7. So let's update that. This is what I've been working on this morning, by the way, which is terrible, but we may come back to that later on in the stream. So firstly, we need to make sure that we actually in check 2FA controller. So check 2FA controller is what we post to here. We want to check that the number of digits required is 7 and not 6, because the SMS sends 7-digit codes, not 6-digit codes. So that would have definitely failed it for me. I wonder if we can set that in the actual API request. Can we tell it how long the code should be? Because that would be better, right? I don't want to be relying on Authy, because like one day it may go, do you know what? We're going to go for 9-digit codes now. You know, so it's probably wise if we could actually set that if it's possible. Well, it takes an array of options. Let's take a look. Oh, okay. It just does an array merge on the options. So I wonder what the default options are. Can we see that? It's just telling it to use curl or whatever. It's not good. Okay, I'm definitely getting sidetracked here, and as we all know, this is kind of common for me on this stream. I'll just think, oh, we'll just check at this for 2 seconds and end up like deep in the API trying to figure out how to do it. So we'll ignore that for now. That's fine. It's definitely something I'd want to capture with a ticket in a real world application. Is like, oh, we're validating that the SMS code is 7 digits, but we've got no idea if that's a standard or if that could change. Because, of course, as soon as Authy's system starts sending 8-digit or 6 digits or 9 digits or 4 digits, we've basically screwed our system. Interesting that it forces IPv4. Yeah, I'm not convinced. Sorry, I've gone the wrong way. I'm not convinced that this is the best client library ever. I mean, it works, but there's definitely some scope for me to make some some changes here. But hey, it works, and that's the important thing. So this is where we've got to. So yeah, if I type in a 7-digit number in the page, we get to OK. So that's where we're next. I'm going to close this because I'm getting really annoyed having to scooch past it all the time. So this is where we got to the check 2FA, which is what's getting posted to now. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to update the constructor so that the flow is this. The user registers on the site. We send create a user for me, please, Authy API call. Authy responds with, I've created a user for you, and this is the ID of the user, and we store that in our database. And then the next step of the flow is, the user wants to log in. So the user logs in, and if Authy was enabled, as we saw earlier on, it's got an Authy ID, and then we say, could you send an SMS to this Authy ID, please? The user types it into the form, and then we have to make a call to Authy again, to the API, saying, Authy, is this a valid token for this user ID, please? And if it is, then we can continue with the login, essentially. And if not, I don't really know. I guess we say your 2FA has failed, I guess. So there's some interesting challenges this afternoon with Laravel on what we can do here. So I guess we'll figure that out, because I have no idea how to log in the user. But if there's a problem with the username and password, send them back to the login route. I don't know if it does that automatically or if it goes back to the route they came from or whatever. There could be some magic wrangling that we need to do. But hey, let's just get on with it, I guess. So we need access to the Authy API in here. So our auto wiring will sort that out for us if we add that as a dependency to the constructor. So we want an Authy. I'm using this new light color scheme because I've been told that it makes it a hell of a lot easier on stream for when I go between it's not so good when I go between the Ken W. Guest, yeah. Display a message like, have you left a monkey loose on your number pad? Please try again. Something like that. In fact, we will use that exact message, Ken. I like it. That's completely fine. Yeah, I'm using this new light color scheme because people seem to think that it's better for... I'm going to close this Authy library as well so that when I'll tab to PHP Spa, I get the right window. People think that it's better when I go between a light browser and a light... IDE that is less jarring. So let me know if you'd prefer the old dark one. The biggest problem with it is I'm really struggling to see where my cursor is, because I got no idea where my cursor is now. I'm not used to it, so I'm kind of struggling, but it's okay. So we want an Authy API instance passed in automatically, please, Laravel. And then we want to initialize fields in PHP Storm to get that set up. And then we want to make it an inline variable because I hate the 3-line variables for the properties of a method. I really should see if I can set up PHP Storm to do that automatically for me, but hey, that's something for next time. So we've got access to the Authy API, and we know that we've got the request. So then we can say request, give me the validated data, and give me the, I believe we called it Authy token. This will tell us, won't it? Yeah. Give me the Authy token out of here, please. That's the validated data. And we want to pass that then into the Authy API. So we want to say the response from the... No, the response from the Authy API equals this. Authy API validate. Okay, now we're at the stage where I don't know what the method name is. I thought it was just going to be called validate. So we've done request SMS and we've done register user. Now I have to guess at what the next method call is, or if not, RTFM verify token. I bet that's what it's called. Oh yeah, okay. We don't have enough stuff yet to do this, because at this point we still need the Authy ID, right? So we got to get the user's details out of the session, because they've typed their username and password in. We've dumped that in the session while we handle 2FA. So we need to get that back out and pull the user from the database to say, oh, this is the user, and then pass that Authy ID into this verify token. So we can say, oh, this is another point where I really want to start using dependency injection rather than magic global stuff. So I think we can ask for the session manager here. This is definitely a try it and see moment. Like, I'm definitely flying by the seat of my pants here, but it's, you know, it's all good. And then we get that added as a property using initialize fields. Yes, please. And then tidy this up because I hate it. It just feel like it looks so much neater like this, but I'm sure people will absolutely hate that too. It is what it is. So we've got access to the session manager, so we can pull the user's credentials out to the session manager, right? Hopefully. Oh, I've asked for the wrong thing. Okay. So one of the things that I did when I was looking at this earlier on is to try and figure out what the global method session returns, because that's essentially what I want. So it's going to return an Illuminate session store or an Illuminate session manager or a mixed. Oops. Yeah, that's not so good. Okay. Okay. So I guess we'll see if we can ask for a store. Like, this is just me trying to figure out how Laravel works, essentially. So let's ask for a session store. And I'm going to leave it in the session manager for now, but I'll rename that variable if it's the right thing. Yeah, that looks like it's the right thing. Because we want to get, and what did we call it last time? Noises in my ear. Thank you so much for the follow, Kinga Surfring. Thank you. Thank you. Says Macro. Something's hurt your eyes there, hurt your brain. What's the matter? You're going to have to be more specific, please. Is it because I'm using the session to persist the credentials between requests? Is that what's... Something's going to be breaking your heart. It's totally fine. If you'd have been here at the stream where I decided to do that, then you could judge me, but you weren't, so you can't. It is what it is. Oh, mixed foo bar visual det pro. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I agree with you in that case. I thought you were judging me, but you can judge other people all you want. It's totally fine. Response. So we've got the login data. Oh, do you know what? I feel like an abstraction's coming on here. I really do feel an abstraction coming on. Because we've essentially got this piece of code that I need to copy and paste to pull out the user. Do I copy and paste this? Do I? Okay, this is another place I'm using. Right, let's do this differently. Let's see if we can pass in a user model here, right? Because a user model is an eloquent builder, I believe. Has access, in fact. Does it have access to an eloquent builder? This user extends what? Extends authenticatable. Okay. If I have an empty user, can I call where on it, is what I'm asking. I assume I can. Or is this just part of the facade? Again, we're in try it and see territory here, right? So let's give it a go. Let's initialize these fields. And then let's tidy that up. Okay, so we have the user now. So we should be able to say, we have the credentials. We should be able to say user where, oh, this user, sorry, this user where. Can we do that? I'm guessing we can't, right? Oh yeah, we can. Oh, okay, I've got the user and I haven't got the user query builder here. Okay, forget it. I'm going to use the facade in this instance, or the model. The model's static methods. So we're going to say user where. I should just copy and paste now, right? Because we've already done this. And then every time I'm copying and pasting, I should be thinking to myself, abstraction, 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 because I shouldn't be copying and pasting. But, you know, it is what it is. So we've got where email, and then we don't want request validated email. We want credentials. Now, again, I should be adding more checks in here, right? I should be checking that what I've got. The rule of three. Yeah, okay, let's go. Well, this isn't a strict copy and paste, right? Because I'm using different things. But I could definitely create I don't know, an abstract class that has find user by email, for example, and just have both of my controllers extending that. I'm sure that Marco would love that. But, you know, there's ways that we can do this. I'm okay with just hacking on this to kind of understand the process rather than doing the greatest code that I've ever written. You know, I really just want to understand the problems that face developers when they try and add 2FA to their app. That's really all I'm thinking. And I've already found a really interesting problem that I don't understand. I'm having a call with our developer evangelist for Authy specifically tomorrow, or in fact today. After the stream today. It is Friday, right? Getting it done is fine, but reading through all these shenanigans is quite terrible. These are not shenanigans, Macro, and I totally and utterly resent the implication that they are. So we've got the user anyway. And then we want to verify the token, and we've got the user's Authy ID here. Let's not get bogged down in who shenaniganed who. No. It literally is 10 times more difficult than it should be. I don't feel that's true at all. I do not feel that is true at all. Welcome back to the stream, Deal V Man. So then we've got our request, and we've got... No, we don't want our request. We want our credentials. I do kind of agree with you, Marco, that... Akramia, sorry, that this would be a lot easier if I wasn't trying to shoehorn it into a Laravel app. That's the truth. Because I'm scared to death of, like, intercepting Laravel's authentication layer because I don't understand it. So if I was just writing this against my own username and password stuff, I would find this a hell of a lot easier. I don't understand. If I was going to do this for 100%, and if people are going to walk away from this stream and go, oh yeah, I'd like to put Authy into my app, I would 100% think about understanding exactly how Laravel's authentication layer works intricately before trying to do this, because in our instance there's a big massive flaw. In fact, let's do this piece of code and then I'll talk about the huge flaw. The credentials should be like email, I believe. So then we're saying, Authy, can you verify this token, please? And if the token is correct, then we want to do the login that we did here. So we just want to log in, but we want to pass in the credentials. So this should work anyway, even though... Oh, no, it won't work because I'm not using the trait. Here's another thing to trigger Mr. Pavetti. He loves his traits. So we should be checking here if response. Okay, I'm so hot now. It's getting really uncomfortable already. Then we can log them in. Otherwise, copy and paste the cool error handling I created here. This should definitely be abstracted. Let's tidy this up after we've got a working implementation, though. I think that's kind of a nice, it's a nice thing to do anyway. So yeah, we're effectively saying, can you verify this token that this person just sent me? Oh, that's not the token at all, is it? I don't even need the email here. What am I even doing? The token's the second one, right? Yeah. Request. The request. Come on. You can do this. You can do this, guy. There you go. So yeah, we're essentially saying here, okay, pull the credentials out of the session because it should be impossible to get to this page without the credentials being in the session. Absolutely, we should add some more validation here so that we throw an error if there's no credentials in the session or they don't look like we expect. Add more validation here, please. Definitely we should do that. And then we're just like we're asking Authy to verify the token for us, which is great. And if the response is okay, then we're logging them in. Now, the biggest problem we got here is that what we're essentially doing is saying to the user, this is how our current login flow works, okay? If we go back and log out, if we go back home, this is our current user flow, okay? We're asking for the email address and password. We're sticking the password in the session currently, which I don't know what security implications that has. I'm sure somebody who's a lot smarter than me around security will be able to tell me whether that's secure or not. I suspect that sessions can be compromised by smart people who know what they're doing. My instinct tells me that, but I don't know it. So we're putting the password and the email in the session, and then we're sending the two-factor token. So that's what we're doing here. Then we say, oh, here's your two-factor token. And then when the token comes back, then we are saying, oh, the token's correct. Now attempt to log them in. So we're sending tokens even if the person's typed their password in wrong, which is not the best thing to be doing, right? So Authy, you pay for every delivered message and every successful validation. That's the actual payment scheme. Now, there's ways to cut the Authy bill down hugely by not using SMS as a primary delivery, and we'll move on to that once we've got SMS working. But having them to validate the 2FA token, even if they've typed the password in wrong, is not good, right? And the reason that I've done it that way is, again, I don't understand how Laravel's authentication layer works correctly. So what I would do if I was writing this from scratch is validate the username and password in the database using password hash or whatever first. So do that step, but don't actually log them in, but just literally say, well, is the username and password correct? Yes. Or if no, send them back to say, oh, you've entered an incorrect username and password. So we haven't sent the 2FA. Then, if that's correct, without logging them in and setting up the session for them to be logged in user and setting up all the good stuff in Laravel, say, enter your 2FA token. And if that's correct, then set up all of the authenticated user stuff in Laravel. I don't know how to do that. I'll be perfectly honest. I want to have conversations with people who know more about this stuff than me to figure out how difficult, easy, hard, simple. It may be a super simple thing to do, but, you know, I'm out of my comfort zone a bit with Laravel, so that's fine. So this is a bit of a problem. So essentially, we should be able to log in now, I think. I think we should. Did I disable the sending of the messages again? No. Okay, so I think we should actually be able to log in using the latest token. Yeah, there's ads on my phone. You'll just have to ignore them. So the latest token is 3759037. 3759037. Browser, please. Oh, that is a browser, apparently. 3759037. So hopefully this will actually log me in. No, it hasn't. So let's take a look. We got a bug. We have a bug, or at least we have idiotic programming. Oh, I missed a chat message there. Sorry. PHP frightens me, says Kinga Surfing. Oh, it shouldn't frighten you. PHP is amazing. And I say that with no irony or anything. PHP is amazing. It's brilliant for getting this stuff done. Too many login attempts. Oh. No, that's not the error, though. Argument 1 passed to app HTTP controllers check to FA controller login must be an instance of request. Array given. Oh, okay. Login takes the request. Oh, this is going to be a problem. So login takes a request object and not an array of credential data. Excuse me. I mean, we can create a request and pass it in there, right? But that feels stinking dirty. Can we do this? Dare we do this? Should we do this? Should we do this just to see if it works and then maybe think about refactoring it? That's the question. These are all the questions that I'm thinking in my head at this point. This is more PHP than I've looked at for years. I'm FE mainly. This actually looks quite nice to work with, though. I don't know what FE is, sorry. Should I know that? Am I showing my complete and utter ignorance once again? I mean, it wouldn't be the first time, right? So, oh, front end, of course. Yeah, I really enjoyed working with, I worked at the BBC last year. 2018, was it? Yeah, last year. I worked at the BBC doing some React front end stuff. I really enjoyed it. But this is Laravel making rapid deployment relatively simple for you. I'd love to add tons more like type checks and all other good stuff, but really, as I say, this is just an experiment for me to try and figure out what's going on. So I think this might work now. I mean, token is invalid. Token was used recently. So okay, so what's happened here is that we've made the same request to Authy with the same token twice. So we've said validate this request, and it said yeah, okay, I validated it, and then our PHP failed because we got to this point. So then I've F5'd it, and then it's reloaded the page, it's resubmitted the form, and so we've hit Authy again saying, oh, verify this token for me again, and Authy's like, no, you've already validated that once. I'm not letting the person log in with that token again. So it's a totally expected error in my mind, which is good. So realistically, we should be able to... This is me writing really shitty validation, error messaging, sorry. If there's an error from Authy, we just basically iterate over the array and make it into a string and then throw an exception with that message. So that's what's happening here. It's just the way that I'm passing the errors that come from Authy to the front end, essentially. It's really down and dirty, but there we go. So yeah, we should just be able to like start the login flow again now, and it should work. I mean, I think we're gonna hit the sadly we're gonna hit the hourly token limit soon. So we log in, we get a token. The token is this is tedious. This is why we're gonna move away from tokens and onto push requests as soon as we can. 8487255, because this flow is not great for the users, right? Oh, something happened, but we don't know what that is. Okay, we didn't get any errors, we didn't get any any problems, we just got redirected. Now we get an error because the token was used recently. Okay, that's quite scary. I think I set this up correctly, but I don't know what's happening here. We're not getting any errors thrown. I wonder if we should be getting an exception thrown even if... Okay, this login is... I wonder if it's trying to do what I said earlier and redirect me back to where we came from, but with the errors set, but because we're not getting redirected back to the first page that we submitted this form, it's like stifling the errors. I suspect that's exactly what's happening. In fact, let's go to the Blade template for 2FA and say, like, appear, debug, errors, what's it called? I can't even remember. If there's an error for Authy token, can we debug session to see what's in the session at this point? Try it and see. Undefined functions. Okay, let's just var dump it. Let's not even worry about the Laravel way. So we should be able to see what's in the session here. Yeah, excellent. I only really care about any errors that are in here. So I believe they're stored in the... Oh, geez. Okay, that's too much information, Laravel. All. Perhaps will just give me a key value array of everything that's dumped in the session. Okay, yeah, that's kind of what I want. So these flash messages are used to store errors. There's my email and password, which again is a reason that you should definitely not have stored this stuff in the session. You know, it is what it is though for this. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Which is why I think you're better off comparing the password to the hash in the database ASAP and just throw in an error, because once you've done that once, you can go on to the 2FA step knowing that you've already confirmed that the person's credentials match who they say they are. But yeah, okay, that works all right to me. I'm definitely worried now that we're going to hit the login limit, the SMS limit. Definitely thinking that could happen here. So let's take a look. So we log in, and then it sends us something. We don't have any errors here. And then we type in our 5971425 and submit that. Okay, do we have any errors? Yeah, we do have errors. Okay. So we can see that you can see that there's definitely errors being added. So something's going wrong here, and I don't know what that is. In all honesty, oh, we've got a message bag as well, which it would have been nice to be able to introspect. I should be step debugging, but I can't get my damn step debugger working, which is kind of embarrassing for somebody who used to work for JetBrains. But there you go. So we definitely got an error bag here. Okay. We get errors, which gives us this Illuminate support view error bag. I wonder what the error is. I have to go through the flow again now. I suspect what I'm doing here is just too hacky for even Laravel to be happy with. So, It works one step removed, but it's not working two steps removed is the point here. So I'm open to suggestions here, I guess. Let's take a look at the docs, because we do have this two-factor authentication with Authy, PHP, and Laravel docs. So let's, come on, bigger, 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 please. There you go. Sender number one touch. So this is the push notification I was on about. That's exactly what I wanted, where I want to go next. Sender number token through their mobile Authy app. That automatically happens if we have the Authy app installed. So that means we wouldn't have to pay for SMS delivery. And then it'll fall back to a one-time token in a text message. But we've just started from the bottom and we're going to work our way up. But I definitely need to get this working. How we register a user with Authy, we've done that. Thank you very much. We're okay with that. How are they doing it? Yeah, they're just doing it slightly different. How to log in a user with Onetouch. So what are they actually overriding here? The auth controller. This is the constructor. They're adding an Authy service. App Authy service. What is that then? What is that? Oh, something they've created, obviously. That's fine. Can I ungrey this out? And then on post login, which I guess is the route, the action that handles the login route when it's posted, it takes a request, and if auth validate credentials. Oh, so okay, it's just doing that. It's just doing that, and then it's setting into the session password validated equals true. Setting the user ID into the session. This is doing it a slightly different way because it's doing it the opposite way than the way that we are, essentially, because it's actually using the one-touch validation, which I'll demo at some point. Hey, welcome to the stream, Peter. Yeah, this is all good. This is definitely not the way that I would have done it, but I can understand what's happening at least. So it's getting only email and password from the credentials. Then it's calling the auth facade validate method, which is essentially the auth manager validate method with the credentials. And if the credentials match, then it's instead of setting the so it's doing it a slightly different way. This is actually not a bad way for us to go, because what it's doing is it's setting something saying, oh, the password has been validated into the session, instead of actually persisting the password, which is obviously super, super bad. So I'm actually thinking this isn't a bad way to go. Then I want to know how it actually logs the user in, though, once it gets to that step. So with this, it's using Onetouch Requests. So when our user logs in, we immediately attempt to verify their identity with Onetouch. Authy allows us to input some details. We don't care about this stuff. This is just sending this is literally just sending the Onetouch request. We've already done it with SMS, so we don't really care about that stuff for now. I'm more interested in what the callback does. So you can log in the user using auth login by passing it a user object. That is very, very interesting to me, because that solves some of our problems right there. And this kind of goes back to the point I was having about not understanding how the auth works correctly. So we're passing in a let's go back to I want to go back to the do to FA controller. We pass in a, oh, not the do to FA controller, it must have been the add to FA controller, where we pass in an auth factory, right? So if we're using this auth factory, we can actually log in a user, right? Is that how this works? Oh, it doesn't have completion. It doesn't have completion. Why does it not have completion? I cannot live without completion. It's because it's only type hinting on the interface, right? Okay. So we're only getting the interface. That's okay. Yet the concrete implementation is definitely providing me with the user method. How would you even test this? So many factories, how would you even test this? The reason that I don't understand what you're trying to say, Peter, sorry. I'm using dependency injection to make this massively easier to test, to be honest. Otherwise, how can I be sure that what's getting sent back from user? I mean, I could use the facade and then, I guess, use should return or whatever it is in the facade to overload for testing, but it's much easier to test this when I'm using dependency injection, in my opinion. So what's the concrete implementation of this auth factory is what I want to know at this point. Let's do the old-fashioned way, because I don't. Oh, in fact, let's see if my debugging is working. My step debugging. Oh, the previous code, when we were looking at the factory, that was just an interface though, right? So we're listening for PHP debug connections. That's good. Let's go back to our login page. We have some kind of weird debug output toggler saying it has access to this site. So that's good. So I should be able to just like set a breakpoint, I guess, anywhere. And we should... No. Oh. Yeah. I want to start using the no2fa account though, right? Because I don't want... Okay, this is the screen we would use if we wanted to add 2fa. Yeah, I'm just going to var dump it. Okay, sorry. Judge me. Judge me all you want. I want to see what the concrete implementation of the auth factory is being passed in, and not what... Okay. I'm not actually hitting the add to FA here, am I? Until I fill the form in. Until I fill this form in, I mean, debugging could be working, because until I actually complete that form, I'm not hitting that controller. So that'll be exactly why my debugging wasn't working. I wonder if it will work now, if we had a breakpoint. No. Anyway. So the auth manager has... It's the auth manager that we want. Yet, if we look at the auth manager... I've pressed the wrong. If we look at the auth manager, it implements the factory contract. Huh? Oh, okay. It's just a use statement that's given an alias. I can be such an idiot quite often. So if we type int on the auth manager instead of the interface, right? We're okay here. And then we should have whatever code the documentation used to log a user in. Login. Yeah, we should have access to that. Do we is the question? No. May well be provided by a trait mind. Let's check that. I'm just quickly having a look at how this works. Latest version of PHP Storm lets you put a breakpoint on the function method declaration line. Kind of handy. Yeah. I genuinely do not know why my step debugging isn't working. If it works perfectly if I'm like running it against tests and running it from the command line. I want to pull a user out of the database, Peter, and log that user in manually rather than having Laravel's authentication layer do it for me. So essentially I want to log a user in myself in the controller rather than call the login method on the Authenticate users trait. I think that's what I want to do anyway. Create user providers. Okay. Create user provider. So when I look at this code, right, this is saying that you can do, this is the documentation that's, I don't want to say it, but it may be slightly out of date. Whisper it quietly. It may be slightly out of date. I essentially want to do this, right? This is the documentation saying it's calling the auth facade login method. I guess I can find out where that's called from the auth facade. And it's manually creating a user from the ID because we've already done the authentication earlier on in the flow. So yeah, that's actually not a bad idea. Is if we go to app.php and we should be able to see the auth facade, and that auth facade login. So actually, it only overwrites it for auth. Get facade assessor. That's the name of the what's the word? The key of the service in the container that's going to handle this, right? Auth. That's what's happening here. So then we want to look for auth. Okay, that's not what I expected. I guess it's proxying it to the auth manager. It's my only guess here is that it's proxying it to the auth manager. I don't know where these things are defined. Let's take a look in config though. Seems to be where we would expect. So this is saying how the default guards and the default. So I'm not. It's a good point. Peter says, have you disabled cookies and session encryption? I'm not interested really in setting everything in the session myself. I definitely don't want to do that. But there's a way that you can log in a user by calling a login method and just giving it a user object, and it does all that good stuff for us. It sets the session up correctly so that the user's logged in for Laravel. I mean, you're right? I could just set the session stuff up myself, but I'm almost certain there's a way you can just do that. I'm just trying to figure out exactly where the code is, because I don't want to call it by the facade. This is stubbornness, essentially. Because I could just do it by the facade myself, right? I could just use that code exactly myself in check 2FA controller. I could just go like, yeah, auth, login, new user, or user find, or whatever. I could definitely do that. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to do this, essentially. And I'm doing it badly at the moment, so... Because I think this login exists, right? Yeah, it does exist. Illuminate contracts auth authenticatable. That's what you pass in, right? So this is these what's the word I'm looking for? Annotations. No, that's not the one I'm looking for. Yeah, annotations are created by the IDE helper. So it should tell me, this is just telling me that the method exists and what it actually accepts. It doesn't tell me where the code is run. I mean, I guess we could just stop dithering and use the facade in this instance, because I don't really know any other way to do it, if I'm completely honest. I don't know where this login method exists. I guess I can... search for symbols, right? Oh, no. Command O. Have you tried trying to log in as the other user? I'm not... At the moment, to be honest with you, what I'm solving at the moment is not a specific code problem. This is me... What I'm trying to solve at the moment is an architectural problem, because I've essentially hit the barrier... from the way that I was going to do it. So how I was going to do it previously, I'll show you in code, is we go to the... Oh, no, sorry, wrong blade template. We go to the home.blade and we say, do you want to add 2FA if they haven't added it already? And if they... Then what we do is we go to the login blade template and we say, instead of submitting to the normal login, because normally this would say login, instead of submitting to the normal login, submit it to the do 2FA route, and then in the do 2FA controller, we essentially hijack the login process. So we say pull the user out of the database to see to say whether that user has two-factor authentication turned on or not, because not all users will have 2FA turned on. If the user doesn't have the 2FA, then essentially call the trait to log the user in. So this is the code that essentially allows... This is the trait that allows us to just log the user in using Laravel standard code. And this is what I wanted to do later, but we'll come back to that. So if this then will say, log the user in, and if we get the username and password wrong and there's no 2FA, all the validation works perfectly. So if we go back to our login page, and if I use the no 2FA user with the wrong password, yeah, I don't have the... that's because I don't have the CSFR token correct. Log out. Log in. So if we use the no 2FA user and then a random password, that piece of code allows us to basically just use the normal login process, but we've hijacked it. I mean, we haven't really, but you know what I mean. And then this part handles the 2FA, so we send the SMS request, blah, blah, blah. and then we ask the user for the SMS request, and then we come to check in that the SMS token is correct. And what I was hoping to be able to do is exactly the same thing as we did before, which is then return login, return this login using this exactly the same trait and pass this request in. But that doesn't work because we've essentially broken the flow now. Because if the login is incorrect, it redirects us back to the page we came from. So if the username and password are incorrect, instead of getting sent back to this initial page saying these credentials do not match our records, we actually get sent to the interstitial page, this page, and we have no, and we don't want to do that. So I'm trying to think of the best way to do this without actually having to like forward them back to the original page, having set an error bag or forward the error bag on. Like the message bag, the errors message bag, because I'm thinking the flow is broken at the moment already. Because as we spoke about earlier, if I submit an incorrect username and password and 2FA is turned on, I have to pass the 2FA test before I even get my username and password checked against the database, which is obviously not good. So the flow is all wrong. This is like the hardest part for me. The using of the Authy API is the trivial part. Is to trying to figure out how to put it into Laravel is where I'm struggling. So my next thought is to do this, is to go back to the do 2FA controller. And once we figure, and then obviously this code won't change because if they don't have 2FA enabled, we can just do a normal login. But otherwise, what we want to do is we want to avoid having to ever redirect back to the username and password page for invalid credentials further on in the flow. This is the only page where I feel like we can send them back. So there's a couple of things going through my head at the moment. The first thing is, do we add an extra step, essentially, or an extra field into the login process here? Or, because I'm a bit concerned that if I try and do this login myself, none of this throttling and things will actually get hit. But, you know, it's not the end of the world at this point. So this credentials is how we validate the credentials, right? So let's try and figure out what this is actually doing here. It takes the request login, validate login. This is just input validation. This is not validating against the credentials. I have the user ID, yeah, Peter, I do have the user ID at this point. I just need to check the credentials without logging somebody in, which I can do, I guess. I can do that easy enough. So first of all, we validate the login. If the class is using the throttles login trait, we can automatically throttle the login attempt for this application. Okay. We'll key this by the username and the IP address of the client making these requests into the application. So if it has too many login attempts, then it calls it. I don't really care about that step at this point. If this attempt login request. So this returns true or false, depending on if the credentials match, right? Essentially. I don't think it's actually attempt to authenticate a user given the given credentials. Yeah, this is literally just saying, are these credentials correct? It's not actually doing the login, or is it doing the login? That's another question I don't know. Does this credentials actually log the user in? Get the needed authorization credentials from the request. Okay, that's what only is doing. I get that. We've gone too deep in, yeah. So it's pulling the credentials out of the request. This attempt, I guess, is what is doing it. Attempt to authenticate a user using the given credentials. But it doesn't seem to be setting up the session and everything. I do have the user ID, Peter, yeah, sorry. I get that. So if it's a successful log, if this returns true, then it sends a login response, which regenerates the session, clears the login attempts, and then this authenticated, excuse me, Oh, the user has to be authenticated. Okay, yeah, it's returning a response, right? Send the response after the user. Okay, yeah, it's returning a response with the user, and it's redirecting to the redirect path, which is home, which is set. Is set in the login controller. You override it. So I get what's happening there. I just don't understand exactly where the the persistent stuff essentially is going on. I guess it's because I'm only looking at the interface here and not the implementation, right? Can I see implementations of this? I thought I could do that using PHP Storm. Does anyone know how I do that? Show usages, yeah. And this is the only usage of that, apparently. Okay, so let's try and find where this interface is being implemented. That's what the next thought is. Temp login. Authenticates users. Okay, that's the trait. So I guess it's the trait that's doing it. And that's the same trait as we're looking at here, right? Yeah. That's not good. What else is doing it? Illuminate contracts, auth stateful guard. Okay. That's an implementation. Auth manager. Illuminate contracts, auth. Oh, that's using it as a return type, though. Session guard. Okay. Oh, the session guard might be doing it, actually. That could definitely be the thing that's doing it. So this is me now doing what I said I wasn't going to do on yesterday's stream, and that's trying to understand. Sorry, attempt, isn't it? And trying to understand exactly what on earth is going on inside of the Laravel's authentication layer. Again, this would be relatively easy if I was doing this with my own authentication layer. Attempt to authenticate using basic authentication. Okay. We should just use the... right, I'm getting sidetracked, as usual. We're just going to use the facade, because if we're using the facade, we're good. So let's modify this flow. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is to go to the do2fa controller and modify the flow there, because now we don't want to send this. We don't want to send this SMS unless the user's credentials match. So we want to do auth credentials. Oh, I can't remember what it was called. Authenticate. No. Login is what actually adds the user. So if we pulled a user, if we had a user model, we could call login, and that's what we want to do when the SMS has been successfully authenticated. All I want to do here is to check the credentials without actually logging the user in. That's all I want to do at this point. We may need to hit Google here to check if we can do that. Let's see what methods we have available here. In fact, I should look at the doc, shouldn't I? Because I was looking at that earlier. It was on this docs, wasn't it? Oh, broke my back button. Broke my back button. It's on this page. The next part, yeah. Okay. So it's here somewhere. Validate is what we want, I believe. Validate. So if this is true, it means the credentials are correct without logging them in. That's what I'm hoping happens here. That's what I'm like really, really hopeful happens. So then we'll say no, request only email password. So we should be able to pass those credentials in and see what comes out. In fact, let's just debug die that. All I want to check here is that, is this going to return true if the credentials are okay, false if the credentials are bad, and if so, is that good enough? Hey, welcome to the stream, Nudak. Nice to have you here. Hey to you too. That's all we're doing at this point, is checking if the credentials match, we should get a true, which we do. And if the credentials don't match, we should get a false, which we do. No, not now. And if I go back to the home page, I should not be logged in. Yeah. Okay, that's good. That is pretty good. Hey, Nudak. Yeah, I do work for Twilio. Yeah, I'm a developer evangelist for PHP. And thank you very much for the follow also. It means so much to me when people choose to follow. That's super cool. So we're winning. We're winning at this point. So we've got a user. We've got a user, and I don't know how to essentially... So this is going to be really cheeky, and I'd love to see, if you're still here, Marco, I'd really like to see what your opinion on this is. So if the credentials are wrong, then all I'm going to do is return this login, because that's going to attempt to log them in with bad credentials and send them back to the page they came from, even though I know that this fails, and I don't have to set up the error message bag or anything, because we know the credentials are wrong here. So after we get to this point, the credentials are good. We know that this person is who they say they are for one factor of the 2FA. So hopefully, if we put a bad password in here now, it just sends us back saying, yeah, you got a bad password. And it didn't. That's scary. It didn't do it. Oh, so what I've effectively done now is completely broken the... I've totally broken the login flow in as much as you can get to the next step without actually ever needing to authenticate. If, in case you didn't know, that's a pretty bad thing for me to have done. I'm just going to stop it sending text messages to me when I work on this page. So that is weird to me. Because, like, if we get rid of that check and I log in with a bad password, I'm assuming everything works as intended. Yeah, perfect. If I... Oh, I'm an idiot again. I'm not actually checking these credentials against anything, am I? I'm saying, this is what I'm doing here. This is what I'm doing. Set the credentials to only be the username and password. If the credentials evaluates as a falsy, then log them in. This will never get hit because I'm always setting this, right? I should be saying valid credentials equals this. Oh no, auth validate credentials. Then I should be saying if invalid credentials, essentially, then attempt to log them in, and we should get the password. I usually use PHP web dev stuff. For the last couple of days, I've been using Kotlin and making an Android app client for a web app I'm doing. I bet you're having a ball working on mobile stuff. Kotlin's super cool as well, so I'm kind of jealous. I'm so hot now. I'm like nearly melting. So at this point, we know our credentials are good. So let's try this again. If we log in with bad. Oh. Yeah. That's an import statement problem. Or I could, like, obviously put it into the global namespace. That should work, though. Importing it with a use statement should work. Excuses. It totally is excuses. But honestly, like, if you're from Europe, I'm in the UK, it's like 30 degrees outside, and my PC is graphics card is going full tilt to stream this, to encode this, so it goes out on a stream. So it may well be excuses, I agree, but it's damn good excuses. Okay, cool. This is working now. Excellent. So we get sent right back. If the credentials fail, essentially, we attempt to log them in at this point, because then we'll get everything handled for us. I'm okay with that. So now at this point, we know that the credentials are good. So now we can say, I'm in Swansea at the moment, New Deck. It's pretty damn hot, if I'm perfectly honest. It's like, there's no like breeze or anything. Okay, so the credentials are good. So we definitely do want to send the SMS here. Oh, you're in the West Midlands. Lovely. The credentials are good. So what we want to do next is we then want to stick some things in the session. And the thing we want to stick in the session is this user object, I guess, or the user ID and the Authy ID. Because once we got the user ID, in fact, we could just dump the Authy ID in there. Tempted to put the email in there because I know we're going to need it later. But yeah, we could just stick the Authy ID in there, because we could pull the user out by its Authy ID. So then we need the session manager passed in, and I can't remember what that is called. I think we use it in the check 2FA request. We pass it in. No, check 2FA controller. So yeah, we want the session store passed in. So we want one of these, please. Oh. So let's ask for one of these in the constructor. In fact, let's just... Let's import that using a use statement. This is just PHP Storm adding use statements for me at the top of the top of the file. Session store, we're going to call it, because otherwise I'll forget when I come back to this code in later weeks and months. Let's tidy this up too, because I hate this being on. Hate this being on multiple lines. That's just my own pedantry. So we're getting a session store put in. So we need to persist. We want to persist the authenticated user in the session, essentially. So we can just say this session store set. I seem to think it was set session. I have a problem. Either my API is broken or my app is broken. I have no idea which. Yeah, that's kind of always the case though, right? Isn't it? Set. Put. Yeah. So now we can say, right, the credentials are good. Stick the Authy ID into the session. Send the SMS to this user's Authy ID. It was your app, yeah. It's always the app. And then if the response is okay, then it's show them the view for typing the data in. So I'm kind of happy with this flow. In fact, now I'm thinking this is a better flow, because we don't ever send the token if the credentials are wrong. So I'm happier. This is a better way to do things. If the credentials are right, we then get to the next step where we ask for the token. How does this work with multiple servers? You configure the servers to work with sessions. So there's a couple of ways you can do that. So I guess you're asking, Peter, because typically session information is stored in a file on the local file system, but you can set a PHP to store sessions wherever you want. So a good solution for this is to store sessions in an in-memory store, like Redis, and then have one Redis. So if you've got multiple webheads, and you've got one Redis instance or multiple instances in a cluster, all of the webheads can use the same in-memory store to pull out their servers. So if you do the first page is served up through a load balancer from one server, and the second page is served up through a different server through that load balancer, it should work. The other thing you can do, and most load balancers have the concept of sticky sessions, where it knows that you're going to be using sessions, so it'll send you to the same server constantly. The load balancer you can configure to do that. So there's two real ways of doing it. Having your sessions out of the file system and into a central store is kind of common in scalable apps that are using, I don't know, AWS or whatever, DigitalOcean or something, where they're spinning up webheads to meet with scale. It's the same problem you'd have with Laravel's authentication layer anyway, because it uses the session by default to keep you logged in. Anyway, I'm happy with this. So the next step we then post. So I'm happy with do 2FA. We need to look at check 2FA, right? So this is doing the right thing. We're not pulling the credentials out of the session manager anymore. We're pulling the Authy ID. So we're storing the Authy ID in the session. So we want to pull the Authy ID out of the session. Then we want to look for the user by Authy ID. So we should still find a user in the database with this Authy ID. That should be fine. And then we want to send the verify token response. And then I'm just interested to see if we can get this far. If the response is okay, we have the user object. So we should then be able to just say auth. Let's import the facade actually. Auth login user. So this should now set up all the persistence. Why are you doing SQL queries in the controller? Okay, Peter, yeah, I've spoken about this at length. This is not an application that I'm doing to deploy to the world. I absolutely would normally pull this into its own service. In fact, were I doing this for a production environment, I wouldn't be using the query builder like this at all. But this is the whole purpose of this stream of what I'm doing is for me to try and understand how Authy works and what are the challenges of adding two-factor authentication into your authentication flow. The point of this stream is for me to understand that. I'm not like writing a library that you can drop into your own Laravel app to easily enable this stuff. I'm literally just trying to understand the programming challenges of moving from one-factor authentication to two-factor authentication. Yeah, I mean, if I were writing this for a work to deploy to production, I totally would be. In fact, I'd have abstracted tons more of the stuff than I have. That's the truth of it. It's just I'm just trying to do the path of least resistance to understand the problems as we've been seeing. I've been thinking about architecture a lot on this stream because that's kind of where the problem space is, rather than me spending time to create a new like service layer or whatever you want to call it to pull users out of the database. I don't want to be wasting time with that level of abstraction for the problem that I'm trying to solve. It's a good question though, a really good question. I love it when I see people asking those kind of questions. That's superb. It's a super question, honestly, Peter. I really mean that. Those are the kind of questions people should be asking, keeping me honest, because there's so many people in PHP who would just be doing this in the controller and not even think twice about it. So to see people who are questioning that kind of stuff is awesome. That's the truth. It's genuinely the truth. Anyway, so then we're going to try and log the user in. I've never done this. I have no idea if it'll work. You know, it is what it is. And then we want to redirect. I guess, does this return a true or false, do you think? The IDE helper script will tell me, right? It returns void. Oh. What does this return? Void as well. Oh, okay. That's not good. It's not good that it returns void, because I can't tell if this was successful or not now. Which is not good. I mean, it should be successful, right? But, So we'll log them in and redirect to home anyway. I mean, it should work at least. I wonder if I've run out of tokens. You haven't watched many people on Twitch. Oh, thank you so much. That's super, super kind. Thank you. You've kind of made my day there, Peter. Thank you very much indeed for those words. Awesome. So I'm hoping this token hasn't expired or anything, because I did send it a few minutes ago. I'm thinking, right, I've got a couple more things to do. Yeah, token is invalid. Okay, that's fine. I've got a couple more things to do with this authentication layer. And then I've got a couple more things to do on Twilio Quest, which is learning Twilio. And then I'm thinking that we should probably look to write like a full application. And none of this like, oh, I would normally abstract this stuff out. I mean, like a full production ready application where I abstract stuff that I would abstract. I write tests, because I don't have any unit tests for this stuff, right? No unit tests, no end-to-end tests, nothing, which is awful. So I'm thinking the next thing we do is build like a full app where we do everything, so that if you've never done that kind of stuff before, then you know, you get to see how you do that, how you think, when do you abstract, when do you think about abstracting, all that good stuff. I think we'll do that. It's interesting to me. So let's go back to the login page, reset everything. We should probably empty the Authy ID from the session at this point, because at this point I've got an Authy ID set in the session, which is not, you know, it's not clean. So in fact, we should probably, I think the login page, the login controller already does that, the one that Laravel gives us. I think it regenerates the session. But anyway, we should now get an ID, which we do. And we've got 8721043. Okay, thank you. 872. I should get rid of that var dump as well. I'm making a guarantee that by next week's stream, and I think we'll have a bonus stream on Monday next week, because I'm away. Oh no, I'm back Friday. It's fine. But we'll have a bonus stream on Monday anyway. So yeah, I've logged in. Anyway, I got distracted. I've logged in. I'm kind of thinking that this is working now. Yeah, that's pretty superb, actually. That this is actually working with an SMS. There's other steps we want to do. Yeah, and I was going to say something that I totally forgot because I got distracted by the fact that we actually logged in. So I have no idea what I was going to say. Thank you very much for the follow, Peter. It's very kind of you. So, yeah. Oh, and here he comes. Look. Oh. Ogramius. Ogramius blowing his Twitch Prime sub on me. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. We should definitely... and there's the notification for Peter. Thank you. We should definitely play some Apex Legends soon. I feel like I need to alleviate some of this. What's wrong with this? This isn't too hacky. I'm pretty happy with it. It's all good. I'd like to figure out how to call this login method on the auth facade directly, because of this I don't like. This is not fun for me. That's the only thing I'm a bit disappointed with here is calling this. The rest of it I really like. I think it's okay. The rest of it. I mean, obviously the error handling is not good either. But yeah, it's okay. So, the next thing I want to do is, at the moment, we're only sending an SMS, and Authy allows us to do other things. So, we've got the SMS. Let's open my phone here. The SMS gets sent, but realistically, it is possible to replace auth with a stateful auth guard, if I recall correctly. Have you been AFK for like 30 minutes? Because I just spent like 30 minutes trying to figure out how to do that. And then in the end, I went balls to it. I'm going back to the facade because I couldn't figure it out. It may be something I look at off stream, actually, and come back to. I don't think anyone wants to see me like blundering through the Laravel internals trying to figure out what's going on. I don't think that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that is useful for people. But I was just a bit interested to see if, maybe that's not what people want to see. So I'm going to install the Authy app now. And there's two things I'm really interested about at the moment. No, I don't want to sign in, thanks. There's two things I'm super interested about here. If I install the Authy app, Authy knows that I have the app installed. Will it start sending me codes via the app instead of SMS automatically? Because I'd like to hope it does, because the app is free, essentially, to receive these one-time passwords. So if I've got the app installed, will it actually figure that out for me? What do you mean code? Is that country code? Yeah. Okay, so this is my burner cell, so I'm okay with people seeing this on stream as usual. Just search it. United Kingdom of Brexit. There's my number. Oh. There's my number. Account verification via SMS, please. And it should just appear. Thank you. And there we go. So now this is giving me my 2FA tokens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I wonder, can I just type these in now without having them sent, do you think? This is definitely ignorance for me. Oh, you can't see this. It won't let you share the app won't let itself be shared. Excuse me. I mean, it's so lo-fi that I can definitely show you on the camera though, right? Let's see if we can. Yeah. So I'm getting 7-digit codes through the app now, and I'm wondering if it'll detect the fact that I've got the app and just like not even send the SMS, or will it send the SMS only, or do I need to change the code to do that? I suspect I might have to change the code because I'm specifically using request SMS, and I think there may be a different method I can use to do this, but let's try it anyway. Let's see if I log out and log back in. Let's see what happens. So it's still asking me for a token. And now what's happened on my phone is, instead of me receiving an SMS, it's giving me a notification to open the app. So I'm guessing... Oh, if I can type this in time. It's a race against time. Have I won the race? Yeah, it logs me in using the code I'm using on my app. So it essentially uses SMS as a fallback only if the user hasn't got an app, which is kind of cool. And I know this now sounds like I'm shilling for Authy, but I genuinely am just trying to understand how this stuff works. And that's the truth, you know. I hope that there's value enough in seeing me learning how this stuff works that it doesn't seem like too much of a shill. But, you know, there we are. It's all good. So that's working, at least. So the next thing I wanted to be able to do is to send a push notification. So the next step of this authentication, the way this authentication stuff works is that the Authy app, which I can't share with you apparently still. No? Okay, you can see that. But you can't see the actual main bit. That's disappointing. There's another step of flow. So the pain here, there's a pain point here for our users, right? And that pain point is that I have to take the number that's on my phone and I have to type it into my computer, right? And that's kind of fundamentally difficult. So at the moment now I'm in a race against time because these are time-based one-time passwords, TOTP. So you can see, I hope you can see the... I wonder if you can see at the top of the screen, if I could even get this in front of my camera. There's like a bar ticking down and the number changes. So you're in a race against time for 30 seconds at a time. So at this point it's 11,436. But what you can actually do is use a push notification that pops up something on the screen saying, I are you trying to log in on the Authy Laravel Stream of Hope? And then you can tick yes. You could tick yes, and then it'll essentially send a message to a webhook that allows you to finalize the login process of the user. I don't know how how that flow is going to work with Laravel. It's a bit interesting. In my opinion, it's not difficult. It's just something you have to get used to. Davy Moore says, yeah, it's not difficult's the wrong word. You're right. It's a pain though, right? Like the flow that you can use where you can just accept the push notification, I much prefer. We use Okta for single sign-on at Twilio. And whenever I have to provide 2FA, the Okta app just pops up on my phone and I just click a tick and then it's done. You know, I don't have to go, type the numbers across. I think that's a much better user experience personally. Yeah, I do think the 30-second limit is super annoying. I know how the theory works because I've been like watching some talks and stuff on 2FA in the week, and I know that there's a delta you get back from a lot of these libraries, so you can say like, oh, I'm okay with if the person types in the number and the time limit runs out, then you can go up to a delta of -1. So you can say, I'll accept this 30 seconds code, but I'll also accept the last 30 seconds code. Because I don't think it's a great user experience, to be honest. It puts me off enabling two-factor authentication on a lot of my accounts that I don't feel like I don't feel like that a lot of my accounts are valuable enough to me to have 2FA on them. Whereas if it was trivial, if I literally had to just pick my phone up and press a button, I think I'd turn on 2FA in a lot more places, personally. You know, there we are. Twilio bought SendGrid. Yeah, they did buy SendGrid. I think it was February this year, Peter. Yeah, they also bought Authy, which is why I'm trying to... Oh, hello, there's my email. They also bought Authy, which is why I'm trying to figure out how Authy works. It's all good. So yeah, I'd love to be able to send one of those push notifications and then work with a webhook. I mean, there's going to be some front-end stuff here. So I hope we've still got our front-endiers. I hope Newduck's still in the chat, or any other front-endy people, because I'm definitely going to need help with that. But the flow here then is that we send, so where we're actually sending in the do2FA controller, where we're sending a request SMS, we actually need to send a push notification, I believe. I don't know how we do that, by the way, but we replace send SMS with a push notification, and then we partially log the user in, and then we have another entry point, another route that Authy will hit once that user's approved or denied in the app. So that's really cool. We then need to handle something in the webhook to fully log the user in. And then in our 2FA login page here, we need to update this. So when we get to this step, we need to update this so that it'll either like sit there polling. I don't know how the best way to do front end to back end, back end to front end communication. I don't know how that works these days. Like my mind, we poll every couple of seconds saying, has the webhook been hit and the user been logged in? Has the webhook been hit and the user logged in? And once it becomes yes, then we forward them to home and they should already be logged in. I don't actually know if that's correct, because the webhook's going to have a different session. So, I don't know how we would do that, actually. That's really interesting. I mean, we've got this documentation here that's doing it, so we should definitely look at that, about what that's doing. But that's a very, very interesting thought for me, is how would you set up the session? I guess once the webhook is hit, it'll give you a token, and then you can forward the user to home and log the user in from the actual browser session they're in. I guess that's how you do it. So let's take a look at how this code works. Send a Onetouch request. Or something like YubiKey. Log in with the user ID password and insert the YubiKey into your computer when the website asks for it. Press the button on the YubiKey and you're signed in. Doesn't that actually just fill in... doesn't YubiKey just like fill in this field for you though? You like select the field and then put press the button. Isn't that how it works? I'm so ignorant here, Davimo. I really am. Like, it's embarrassing. I honestly thought that the YubiKey worked by you select the field you wanted to fill in and then press the button. But I think some applications, like desktop applications, it just works, right? Because they have access to it. But I thought in a browser you had to select the field. Insert the YubiKey into your computer when the website asks for it, then press it. I'd like to see how that is. Yeah, it types a certain amount of cars based on a time seed. Yeah, I should really, like, because I'm getting interested in this stuff, I should really buy one, right? And figure out how it works. I shouldn't be talking about this stuff from massive ignorance, but there you go. Hi, Sleo. Hi, Sleo. Hi, Sleo. Yeah, thank you for the follow. It's all behind the scenes. You see nothing but a message to push the button. Oh, okay. But it is essentially filling in a form, right? I personally use the YubiKey with NFC, using it for TOTP like Authy. Yeah, and I think in that instance, it just pre-fills the box in for you, right? Acramius macro. Perfetti. Anyway, where were we? Yes, so when our user logs in, we immediately attempt to verify their identity with Onetouch. I think this is what Onetouch is. I hope it is. Authy allows us to input details of Onetouch request, including a message, a logo, and so on. We could easily send any amount of details by appending details, some detail. You can imagine a scenario where we send a Onetouch request to approve a money transfer. Because, yeah, of course, two-factor authentication isn't just used for logging users into the website, right? Good 2FA should be being used to validate big risk. What's the word I'm looking for? Big risk processes. So yeah, I'm sending 1 million galleons to Jared. I'm changing my password. Typically, we should be doing 2FA requests, not just at login. If someone wants to update their password or their email address, you know, it'd be nice to make sure that they are who they say they are at that point. So yeah, it's a fair point that we're saying we can send some customization stuff. Once we send the request, we need to update our user's Authy status based on the response. Okay. Excuse me. So reset Onetouch status. If this Authy status is not... Okay, this is just persisting something in user.php. I don't care about that in the user model. A YubiKey is just a keyboard in that instance. Yeah, it's a keyboard attached to a OTP generator where the secret's already in the YubiKey, though, right? That's what's happening. It's a USB keyboard with a secret and TOTP generator built into it, I guess. In order for our app to know what the user did after we sent the Onetouch request, we need to register a callback endpoint. So this is what I'm saying is Authy will fire off a webhook at us, an HTTP request to a webhook that we need to be listening for. In our callback, we look up the user using the Authy ID and then use a WebSocket to let our client know that we received a response from Authy. This is where I'm completely flummoxed. Like, I've never done that stuff before. I talked about polling previously, but obviously a webhook would be the sensible thing to do. So then there's the callback. Oh, I can't see it though. How do I see this in GitHub where I don't have to actually see it all faded out? So this is all I care about here, right? This is the webhook. So it's asking for the UUID out of the request. Did it create a Onetouch model in the app? I think it did, right? So it's pulling that record out. The Onetouch status equals request input status. Okay, so all it is actually doing is persisting the fact that there's Onetouch. So what it's doing is it sends a Onetouch request, creates a row in the database saying, I've sent a Onetouch request. And then when the webhook comes in, it says, oh, that Onetouch request was successful or failed. And then it triggers an update in the in the browser to move on to the next page, right? And the update in the browser then looks at the Onetouch request. And if the Onetouch request was successful, then it logs them in. I think that's what's happening here. It seems reasonable to me, at least. Excuse me again. So, we've taken a look at what's happening on the server side. So, yeah, I'm really interested to see how the webhooky stuff works. Yeah, Davimore says, I always say use 2FA whenever it's available, but the most important thing is to use decent and unique passwords for every app site. And be smart, use a password manager. Yeah, I think that's super valuable information. Like, but I used foobar as a password when I got 2FA. Hang on, let's see if that's correct. Yeah, can I try and log into your Gmail live on stream macro? Is that acceptable or not? I don't believe you use foobar for a password. I don't believe for 1 minute. Anyway, I got distracted again. So yeah, when we expect a Onetouch response, we begin by polling Authy status. Okay, so this is just doing a poll. That's exactly how I would do it. But I would love to... I think I would like to try and do webhooks. This is just using polling, right? I don't care about how this looks. We shouldn't need to do any of this stuff. All I want to do is to poll something saying, has the status been set for this yet? Has the status been set for this yet? Has the status been set for this yet? And once it has, just forward them on to the next step where we actually log them in on the server. I think that will work. I think we're good here. I think I understand what's going on. How are we going for time? 20 minutes. 20 minutes. We can certainly get some stuff done in 20 minutes, even though my mind is melting. Excuse me 1 second. I'll be right back, and then we'll make a start on the Onetouch stuff. Okay. I'm back. So, yeah, we want to create somewhere where we can store the responses from our Onetouch requests, I guess. So now this is stretching my Laravel memory. I believe we can do that from PHP Artisan, right? Make migration. And then the name of the migration. Am I close here? I can't remember how we should name our migrations, though. Create Onetouch table, I guess, is... It's a definite try it and see moment here. A 100% try it and see moment. Cannot open file RTN. Of course you can't. Of course you can't. Oh, am I in the wrong... Okay. Let's be in the right folder. There we go. Okay, so we got the migration. I don't even have a clue what this table should look like because I have no idea what Onetouch sends back to us. Should we just send a... Oh, here we go. You can see my phone. You can see this is what was happening when I had the Authy app installed. Instead of getting the SMS sent to me. Yeah, I need to buy Visor, right? I was getting these notifications that'll open the app for me, which is kind of cool. So, I guess what we do is, again, we get to try it in C mode, and we send one of these Onetouch requests and see what response we get. So, yeah, I think that's pretty good thing to do. So, we want do 2FA. Do 2FA. I named these controllers so badly. Naming stuff is so hard. So instead of actually doing a request to SMS, how do we send this? How do we actually send a push notification? Hey, it's Leo. Welcome to the stream. Yes, I do work for Twilio. I work for Twilio as a developer evangelist for PHP, and I love it. Okay, so let's take a look at the docs again and see how it was sending the Onetouch. Oh, I forgot that this docs break my back, but I need to remember to speak to somebody about that. That is so annoying. Send in the registering a user we've done. Log in a user with Onetouch. There we go. So where's it sending the... Oh, look. Verify user status. Why is this... Oh. Okay. So it validates the credentials first, which is what we've already done, except we just, you know, we do it the other way around, so we're not inside an if block, because we are totally elite programmers. And then it does verify user status, where it passes. So this is just asking, is this user verified? Is this user registered, essentially? So, because what the problem here is that if we start asking for Onetouch stuff, and the user doesn't have the app installed, it'll fail. Now, I do believe that it'll fall back gracefully, but maybe we have to ask Twilio, has this person got the app, before we should do this. But I'm going to just do this send Onetouch stuff, because I just want to see what Onetouch sends back to us. Why do I not have a method called send Onetouch? Are they using a different... All right, open this up in freaking GitHub. How is it using the... Let's find send Onetouch. So it's in this Authy. And this Authy is an instance of this service. And service is app Authy service. Okay, so we need a different... We don't want to use the API now anymore. We actually want to use the Authy service. That's what's happening there. We need to create a new controller for that though, right? And that is in my service provider. Oh, I'm remembering all these good things. Can I just add more registrations in this method? I guess I can, right? And we want service, which is Authy. Wasn't it just Authy service? There is no Authy service. Is this out of date, I wonder? Is this out of date? Now that's an interesting point. When was this last updated? November the 7th, 2018. Because we should have... Oh, no, of course, we've created our own service. That's what's happening here, right? Oh, what an idiot. This is a service that we've created ourselves in the app namespace. Dear me. Let's take a look at what that looks like. Sometimes it's so difficult programming, right? And the simple things become a pain in the ass. And also I'm so hot. So this is just an interface where we've got register, verify user status, send Onetouch, verify Onetouch, send token, verify token. So I'd like to see how the implementation of that. I'm probably going to have to like pull this down now so that I can look at it. This is their model. I'm interested to see what their model looks like. They literally just got UUIDs. Oh no, their migration will tell me, right, what the database looks like. This is the code for the tutorial we're loosely following, but not really. It's the way I roll. So it just asks for an ID, a UUID, and a status, which is an enum, and then the timestamps. What's the UUID then? I guess that's the Authy ID. It's okay. So I'm going to pull this down into a new project so I can look at it with code completion and all the good stuff in PHP Storm. I want to have a little look at how this service is wired up, so I can check to see how the 2FA stuff is working. And I'm wondering why I can't use this Authy API. Maybe I can, and that's what I'm kind of thinking about. Let's get rid of this, because I end up getting... This is so typical of the way I develop, right? I end up realizing that I can't do what I thought I did. Go and look into the docs. Go and clone another library somewhere so that I can take a look at that, and end up leaving this PHP script with totally won't parse. So typical. So, what was that? Authy 2FA Laravel. New window, please. Okay. So I want to look at app Authy service, and I want to find out things that implement this, please. Class Authy implement service. Yeah, there you go. App services Authy implements service. Cool. So I'm only really interested in, at this point, in send one touch. Oh, so it's just called create approval request. I do think it's kind of cool to pull this stuff into a service, by the way. That's not how I'm going to work today. But we touched on that earlier, where I'm all for this kind of abstraction stuff. So yeah, we're all good here. Let's go back to our do2FA controller, and we're still passing in the Authy API. That's good. And down here is where we want to do our create approval request, which I hope exists. Yeah. And it takes an Authy ID, a message, and some options. So we've got the Authy ID. The message. Anyone want to suggest a message? Oh yeah, we never handled the... when we were typing in the SMS, we never handled the failure case where we send the fail validation and send a message. Never mind. Never mind. Distracted again. Yeah. The message will be log in to Authy Laravel stream of hope. I don't even know how or where this is going to appear, so I don't really know what this is going to look like. And I'm just going to var die the response, because I just want to see what it sends back at this point. Because it's going to create the approval request inside of Authy before, it might not even be sent to my phone yet. We'll have a look at what happens on my phone as well. But it's like, I'm just interested to see how the response to that API call looks. So if we go back to our website and go back to login, and log in as this account where my burner phone is, that's what we get back as a response. I should really have looked at the body, right? And if I show you the phone, there's the message. So the top push notification here is the one we just created, and it says log into Authy Laravel stream of hope. And now we can approve and deny with one button without copying and pasting a code across. That's the pretty cool thing here, right? Verify the information below. If you're not expecting this request, please click deny. That's the cool thing. We can update this icon at the top here as well, so that it's our logo, so there's more trust. But that's super cool. I'm happy with that. So let's take another look. Body var, I guess. I want to see, what does this even do? Turns a variable specified in the response if present. I just want the body. Can I just see the body? It's got a protected body. Can I just cast it to a string? Let's try again. Nah, it won't let me cast it to a spring. A spring? It will not let me cast it to a spring, apparently. That's not so good. God, I'm so boiling. We're going to have to... 5 minutes, and then we're going to have to... We're going to have to call it a day. Can I just do response? Oh, response body was private, right? So I only get access to body var. Okay, errors, message, and ID. So ID is going to give me the UUID of the request. That much we know. Or I say that much we suspect. Because I'm guessing here, okay, wasn't... okay is 1. Okay, let's take a look at the code again. No, that's the callback. That's not what we wanted. We wanted the app service Authy to see how it gets the ID from the send Onetouch. Oh, it asks for a body var called approval request. This is so... In fact, you know what? I just realized. This is a super pro tip. Everything I'm doing at the moment is using ngrok. So if I set up Authy to be going to the right, how do I tell it where to post the webhook to? I guess I need to do that in the control panel, right? Okay. I'm jumping around again. Sorry, everyone. I'm jumping around. It is what it is. I'm thinking about things and doing things at exactly the same time. Sign in with Twilio. Of course I want to sign in with Twilio. Sorry. I'm thinking and doing at the same time always causes me problems. I just want to check here. Oh, now I need to add an Authy token, which is on a different phone. This is my real phone, which you can't see the screen. Why didn't you send me a pull request? Okay, so I want to set this app up so that it is using Onetouch. Oh, look at this. We can see the 4 Onetouch things that we've sent. That's pretty cool. How do I set that up, though? There's got to be a way to set this up, right? Oh, I can change the TOTP. This was the question I had earlier about everything. So the endpoint URL we want is going to be gh.ngrok.io/Onetouch. Right? That's good enough. For approved transactions. Save that. Now. Oh no. Oh no. There we go. I mean, I don't even know what I'm thinking here because I was hoping to see what data we got back from the request to the actual API, which we're never going to do. Jeez. Whew. I'm waffling, excuse me. I think it's time to end the stream. I'd just like to see if I can get the... I'd just like to check that I can get the... oh, yeah, it's in here. That if I do send Onetouch, that I can pull out this approval request. I'd like to see all the data that it sends to us, but I don't think we're going to be able to. So let's just see what the approval request looks like. I mean, we could hack this, right? To see all the data. There's no reason why we couldn't do that. So let's refresh this, and hopefully we'll see some kind of unique UUID. Object of class, standard class. Oh, okay. I'm still trying to cast it to a string, aren't I? That's never going to work. Yes, we get this UUID. So this is the unique ID of the request in the Authy, in the actual Authy which we should see here. Yep, there it is. There's the request. So once that gets processed, we get a post back to Authy, which is the route we just created, which includes this, the new status, which will be approved, and we can create this in the database with the Authy ID of the user that created it. I think we have an idea of what's happening here now and how we can do this next time. So let's make a note here. Because otherwise I'll never remember what I have to do next time. Next time, add this UUID to DB with the Authy ID. Handle callback from Authy to update status. Modify front end to poll for update to that Authy UUID. Log user in properly on redirect. That's what we have to do next time, and then I think we're done on this finally. And we'll definitely have a bonus stream on Monday to try and get this nailed out, because I'd really like to get this done. This is like the third stream I've been messing around with this stuff. So thank you so much once again, everyone, for hanging out. We've had some new people hanging out. We've had some old people hanging out. It's been a lot of fun as usual. We'll be back on Monday. If you're planning on coming back Monday or into the other streams, have a little think about if there's anything you'd like to see me build in a longer term project where, like, I want to build a real app, whether it's software as a service or just like an API or whatever. I'd really like to build like a real app. So thank you very much for joining me, and have a great weekend, and I'll see you all soon.